The sun had just started to rise over Willow Creek, painting the sky with soft orange and pink hues, when Emily opened her front door to grab the morning paper. But instead of the usual rolled-up newspaper, she found a white envelope sitting squarely on her welcome mat. Her stomach sank the moment she saw the bold HOA logo printed in gold at the top. "Another notice," she muttered under her breath, already feeling annoyed. She tore it open, standing right there on her porch, and scanned the letter. Mandatory special assessment, $1,500 per household to fund community pool renovations. Payment due within 30 days. Emily's jaw dropped. $1,500? She nearly shouted. Her husband, Mark, came out holding his coffee. "What's wrong?" She shoved the letter at him. "Look at this. They're forcing every single homeowner to pay for pool renovations, even if we don't use the pool." Mark frowned. "That's insane. The pool's fine. We walked by it last week, nothing looked broken." Emily felt anger bubbling up inside her. Their family barely went near that pool. And $1,500 wasn't pocket change. It meant cutting back on groceries, skipping their summer trip, maybe even dipping into savings. By mid-morning, Emily wasn't the only one upset. Neighbors were outside waving the same letter in the air, voices rising in frustration. Ben, the guy who lived across the street and had 3 kids, threw his notice on the ground. "This is robbery. I don't even like swimming. Why should I pay?" Mrs. Patel, the elderly widow next door, looked close to tears. "I live on a fixed income. I can't afford this. What happens if I don't pay?" Before Emily could answer, the sound of shoes clicking on the pavement made everyone turn. HOA President Mr. Clark appeared, as if summoned by the chaos. He was dressed in his usual black official uniform with the HOA badge pinned proudly to his chest, clipboard in one hand, sunglasses perched on his face despite the early hour. "What's going on here?" he asked coolly as if he didn't already know. Emily stepped forward. "This notice is outrageous. Why are you forcing every homeowner to pay for pool renovations we didn't vote for?" Clark's expression didn't change. The pool is a shared community amenity. Its maintenance is mandatory and in everyone's best interest. Ben stepped forward, his voice rising. "This isn't maintenance, this is renovation. And you didn't even ask us first." Clark adjusted his sunglasses and looked around at the crowd. "You all signed the HOA agreement when you bought your homes. That agreement includes mandatory assessments. Payment is due within 30 days. Failure to comply will result in fines and potential liens on your property." Gasps went through the group. Emily felt her heart pounding. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about power. Emily turned to the camera, or narrator's voice grew serious. "If you've ever been forced to pay for something by your HOA that you didn't want, you know how this feels. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because this fight? It's just getting started, and it's about to get messy." The crowd began to argue, voices overlapping, some shouting at Clark, others at each other. But Clark didn't flinch. "Meeting adjourned," he said coldly, as though this was some official session, and walked away as if the matter was settled. Emily clenched her fists. "No," she whispered to herself. "This isn't over." That night, Emily sat at her kitchen table staring at the letter. Mark sat across from her, silent. "We can't just let them get away with this," she said. "If we don't stop them now, what's next? Forcing us to pay for a new clubhouse we didn't want? A fountain? New landscaping we didn't approve?" Mark nodded slowly. "So what do we do?" Emily's mind was racing. She thought of Ben, Mrs. Patel, all the neighbors who looked terrified today. "We fight back," she said firmly. She grabbed her phone and texted her neighbors. "My garage. Tomorrow night. We need a plan." The following evening, Emily's garage was lit by a single hanging bulb. Folding chairs were arranged in a loose circle, and one by one, neighbors began to arrive. Ben was the first, carrying a notepad. Mrs. Patel followed, clutching her HOA agreement like it was evidence in a trial. Even quiet Mr. Johnson, who rarely spoke to anyone, showed up with a thick binder full of HOA bylaws. "All right," Emily said as the last chair was filled. "We all know why we're here. Clark can't just demand thousands of dollars without giving us a choice. We need to push back. Ben leaned forward. We could refuse to pay. Mrs. Patel's eyes went wide. And risk getting fined? They could put a lien on my house. I can't lose my home. Emily nodded. That's why we have to be smart about this. We need information first. We need to know where this money is actually going. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat and opened his binder. The HOA bylaws state that any homeowner can request to see financial records with reasonable notice. They legally have to show us how they're spending the budget. Emily smiled for the first time that day. Perfect. Step 1. Request the financial records. Step 2. Petition for a delay in the payment deadline. If we get enough signatures, they'll have to hold another vote. And step 3? Ben asked. Emily's eyes hardened. If that fails, we go public. Social media, local news, whatever it takes. The group nodded in agreement. For the first time, there was a spark of hope. The next morning, Emily walked to the HOA office, a small brick building near the entrance of Willow Creek. Clark wasn't there, but the secretary was. Emily handed over a written request for the HOA's financials, citing the bylaws. The secretary's polite smile didn't reach her eyes as she took the paper. You'll hear back in 10 business days, she said flatly. 10 days? Emily asked. The payment is due in less than 30. We need those numbers now. 10 business days, the woman repeated, her tone colder this time. Emily left, frustrated but determined. She wasn't going to let them stall her. 2 nights later, she came home to find a bright yellow envelope taped to her door. Her heart sank as she tore it open. Warning: unapproved gatherings of homeowners discussing official HOA business may violate community rules and result in penalties. She crumpled the letter in her fist. Someone had reported their meeting. Clark knew what they were doing. Emily texted the group immediately. We've been warned. Clark's watching us. Stay quiet, but we move forward. That weekend, she and Ben went door to door, gathering signatures for their petition. Some neighbors signed eagerly, others were hesitant, but by the end of the day they had over 50 names, enough to force a discussion at the next HOA meeting. But just as things were looking promising, Ben showed up at Emily's door late Sunday night, face pale. You're not going to believe this, he said, holding out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a flyer, distributed to every house in the neighborhood, with bold black letters. Support the renovation. Protect our property values. Don't let a handful of troublemakers ruin our community upgrades. At the bottom was Clark's signature. Emily felt a wave of anger. He's trying to turn everyone against us. Ben nodded grimly. And some people are buying it. I heard the Hendersons saying they'll pay the $1,500 just to keep the neighborhood nice. Emily slammed her fist on the counter. Then we have to be louder. If Clark wants a fight, we'll give him one. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She sat at her computer, typing furiously. She started a private Facebook group titled, Willow Creek Homeowners for Fairness. Within hours, neighbors began joining. Stories poured in, complaints about previous unfair assessments, shady landscaping contracts, even threats of fines for minor infractions. Emily realized something big. This wasn't just about the pool. This was about years of Clark abusing his power. The next morning, as Emily stepped outside to get the mail, Clark was standing across the street, arms crossed. He didn't say a word, but the smirk on his face said it all. I know what you're doing. Emily didn't look away. She stood tall, clutching her petition forms in her hand. This isn't over, she muttered under her breath. The night of the official HOA vote was thick with tension. The community center parking lot was overflowing. Cars lined both sides of the street. People who hadn't attended a single HOA meeting in years were here tonight, clutching their notices and whispering angrily as they filed inside. Emily stood near the entrance, handing out copies of the petition she and Ben had collected. Please, just read this before you vote, she said to each homeowner who passed. Some nodded and took the papers, others brushed past her, muttering about troublemakers. Inside, the community hall buzzed like a beehive. Folding chairs were arranged in neat rows, and at the front sat Clark and the HOA board members behind a long table draped with a white cloth. Clark wore his usual black uniform, polished shoes, and that same unnerving calm expression. When he saw Emily, his lips curved into a thin smile. "Evening, Mrs. Parker," he said smoothly. "Cut the fake politeness," Emily shot back. "You know why we're here. We want answers before anyone votes." Clark tapped his clipboard. "And you'll have them. Please, take your seat." The meeting began with the usual formalities, roll call, reading of last month's minutes, but no one was paying attention. All eyes were fixed on the line item that had brought them here. Special assessment, $1,500 per household, pool renovation project. Clark cleared his throat and addressed the crowd. The pool has not been renovated in over 12 years. The plaster is cracking, the filters are outdated, and safety regulations require us to make updates. This is an investment in your property values. A few people clapped, but most stayed silent. Emily stood up. "We have the right to see where our money is going. I requested financial records 2 weeks ago. I still haven't seen them." Clark's jaw tightened, but his tone remained smooth. "They are being processed. But that is irrelevant to tonight's vote. The board has already approved the contractor. All we need now is your payment." The room erupted. "This is robbery," someone shouted from the back. "Let us see the bids," another yelled. Clark banged a gavel on the table. "Order." Emily's heart pounded as she raised her voice. "I did some research on the contractor you hired. He's charging nearly double the market rate for pool repairs. Why are we overpaying?" Gasps rippled through the room. Clark's calm facade faltered for the first time. "That information is not verified," he snapped. Emily stepped forward, holding up printed screenshots. "Oh, it's verified. Here are 3 other companies offering the same work for half the price. You're trying to force this community into paying a premium without giving us a choice." The crowd exploded into shouts, some cheering Emily on, others yelling at her to sit down. "This is a vote, not a debate." Clark barked, slamming the gavel again. "All those in favor of the assessment, raise your hands." Hands shot up across the room, but not all of them. Emily quickly counted, her heart racing. "Opposed," Clark called. Emily and her supporters raised their hands. For a moment, the room was dead silent as the board members whispered among themselves, counting. Finally, Clark stood. By a narrow margin, 52% in favor, the special assessment passes. The room erupted again, this time with chaos. Ben leapt to his feet. "This isn't over. You ignored our petition, you ignored our questions, you can't silence us." Clark's face hardened. "The decision has been made. Payment is due within 30 days. Failure to pay will result in fines and liens, as stated in your contracts." He motioned to the 2 security guards standing near the door. Meeting adjourned. Emily felt her stomach twist as people began filing out, some muttering angrily, others smugly satisfied. The neighbors were now divided, one half glaring at the other. As Emily stepped outside, Clark followed her. "You're wasting your time," he said in a low voice meant only for her. "The board runs this community. Not you." Emily turned, fire in her eyes. "Maybe not yet," she said. "But if you think I'm going to just roll over and write you a check, you don't know me at all." Clark's smirk returned. "You'll pay, Mrs. Parker. They all will. One way or another." Emily didn't flinch. "We'll see about that." She walked away, her fists clenched, her mind already working on the next step. That night, Emily sat in front of her laptop, scrolling through the messages pouring into the private Facebook group. "I can't believe this passed. We should get a lawyer. I'm ready to fight back, just tell me what to do." Emily took a deep breath. "This is bigger than just a vote," she said aloud. "This is about standing up to Clark once and for all." She clicked Go Live and started addressing the group on video. "This isn't over," she told them. "Tomorrow, we start fighting back. And this time, Clark won't see it coming." Emily didn't sleep much after the vote. Her anger burned like a furnace, keeping her wide awake. By sunrise, she had a plan. She opened her laptop, pulled together every piece of evidence she had collected, screenshots of cheaper contractor bids, HOA's budget discrepancies, and the yellow warning letter she'd received for unapproved gatherings. Then she wrote a long post for the private Facebook group. This isn't just about a pool. This is about a board that refuses to listen to its residents, inflates costs, and threatens us when we ask questions. Here's the proof. She attached the documents and hit post. By noon, the group had exploded with activity. Dozens of neighbors commented in outrage. "This is criminal," one wrote. "They're stealing from us," another added. "We need the news involved." Ben texted her. "You just started a revolution. This is going viral." Emily smiled grimly. But that was the point. But by evening, she realized Clark wasn't going to take this quietly. A new letter was taped to every homeowner's door. Reminder: failure to pay the special assessment will result in escalating fines and possible liens. HOA reserves the right to pursue legal action against delinquent homeowners. Emily's phone buzzed nonstop with messages from terrified neighbors. What do we do? Can they really take our homes? Emily, help. Emily's hands trembled as she typed back. Stay calm. Don't pay yet. I have a plan. The next day, she and Ben started recording videos exposing Clark's behavior. In one clip, Emily stood in front of the pool, pointing to the cracked plaster. This is what Clark calls urgent. Does this look like a $75,000 repair job to you? Another video showed the 3 lower contractor quotes side by side with the HOA's chosen bid, highlighting the huge price difference. Ben uploaded the videos to the Facebook group, and within hours, they were being shared outside the community. By evening, a local news reporter had reached out to Emily asking for an interview. This is our chance, Emily said, her heart pounding. If we go public, Clark can't hide anymore. 2 days later, the story aired on the evening news. Homeowners say HOA forcing $1,500 payments, claim overcharging and lack of transparency. Footage of Emily standing by the pool played on screen. Clark refused to comment on camera, which only made him look worse. That night, Emily sat on her porch, feeling the first flicker of hope since this whole mess started. Then she heard the crunch of footsteps. Clark was there, standing at the edge of her driveway. "You think you're clever," he said, his voice low and cold. "Dragging this community through the mud. You're ruining our reputation." Emily stood. "I'm saving it. People deserve to know the truth." Clark stepped closer, his expression dark. "You're making a mistake. You're turning neighbors against each other. You think this ends well for you?" Emily didn't back down. "This ends with you being held accountable. And I'm just getting started." Clark glared at her for a long moment before walking away, his words echoing in the night. "You're going to regret this." The next morning, Emily discovered that someone had left an anonymous complaint against her house, claiming her trash cans had been left out too long, a violation of HOA rules. Then came another notice, fining her $50 for yard maintenance violations. Emily laughed bitterly. So this is how he wants to play it. She grabbed her phone and recorded another video. Clark is retaliating. He's trying to intimidate us with fines and threats. But I'm not backing down, and neither should you. The video got more views than any before. Neighbors who had been too scared to speak up started messaging her, offering support. By the weekend, Willow Creek felt like a battlefield. Some houses had "support the renovation" flyers in their windows. Others had signs Emily had made that read, "Transparency first." At the community park, groups of neighbors shouted at each other across the lawn. Arguments broke out daily, some so heated that security had to step in. Mark, Emily's husband, watched from the window one evening and shook his head. "This neighborhood is falling apart," he said softly. Emily turned to him, determination in her eyes. Sometimes things have to break before they can be fixed. The final straw came when Emily received a letter marked "Final Notice," threatening legal action if she didn't pay within 2 weeks. Emily slammed it on the table. "Fine," she said, her voice steady. "Then we take this fight to the next level." Ben raised an eyebrow. "Next level?" Emily nodded. "We call for an emergency town hall meeting. And this time, we're bringing every piece of evidence, every witness, every camera crew we can get. Clark won't be able to hide behind procedures this time. That night, Emily sent out the message that would change everything. Town Hall. 1 week. Bring everyone. The night of the emergency town hall felt electric. Cars lined every street leading to the community center. People poured into the hall until there was barely standing room left. Even local reporters were present, cameras ready. Emily stood near the front, her heart pounding in her chest. She had a thick folder of evidence in her hands, every document, every photo, every message she had collected over the past 3 weeks. This was it. Clark sat at the long table with the other HOA board members, his usual calm mask firmly in place. But Emily could see the tension in his jaw. The room quieted as Clark banged the gavel. This emergency session is now in order. Let's keep this civil. Emily stepped forward before he could continue. Before you talk about civility, Mr. Clark, let's talk about honesty. A murmur went through the crowd. Clark stiffened. You are out of order. No, Emily said firmly, her voice carrying through the room. For weeks, we've asked for transparency. For weeks, we've asked for proof of where our money is going. And for weeks, you've ignored us. Tonight, we're done being ignored. She held up a large poster board showing side-by-side comparisons of contractor bids. This is the contractor the HOA chose, charging nearly double the normal price. And here, she said, flipping the board, are 3 other bids from reputable companies that offered the same job for half as much. Gasps filled the room. The cameras flashed as reporters captured every word. Clark leaned forward, his voice sharp. You're misleading these people. You don't understand the legal process. Emily cut him off. No, Mr. Clark. What I understand is that you were about to spend $75,000 of our money without a proper vote and without disclosing competitive bids. That's not leadership. That's abuse of power. The crowd erupted into applause. Ben stood up from the back of the room, waving a stack of petitions. And guess what? We have enough signatures to demand a recall vote on every member of this board. The room went wild. Neighbors cheered, some even standing on chairs. Clark banged the gavel again, shouting for order, but no one listened. This is a mob, he yelled. This isn't how community business is done. Emily stepped closer to the table, locking eyes with him. This is the community. You work for us, remember? And we're firing you. The board members looked at one another nervously. The treasurer leaned over to Clark, whispering something in his ear. Clark's face turned pale. Finally, the treasurer stood. In light of the petition and the community's response, I motion that we postpone the special assessment and hold a formal recall election next week. The entire hall went silent for a moment, then exploded with cheers. Clark's hands shook as he banged the gavel one last time. Fine, he spat. Postponed. But this community will regret this decision. He stormed out, shoving past reporters as cameras followed him into the parking lot. When the noise finally settled, Emily sank into a chair, exhausted but smiling. Ben came over and slapped her shoulder. You did it. We all did it. Mrs. Patel approached, tears in her eyes. I thought I was going to lose my house, she said softly. You saved us. Emily hugged her. No one should live in fear of their own neighborhood. A week later, the recall vote was held. Clark lost by a landslide. 2 other board members resigned on the spot. The new board, made up of residents who had fought alongside Emily, voted to cancel the special assessment entirely. Instead, they scheduled a community-wide meeting to discuss the pool's future, this time allowing everyone to vote on whether renovations were even needed. That summer, the pool remained open. Kids laughed and splashed, families gathered for barbecues, and neighbors who once glared at each other now smiled and waved. Emily stood by the pool fence with Mark, watching the sunset reflect on the water. You know, he said, you could have just written the check. Emily laughed. Yeah, but where's the fun in that? She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the last few weeks lift off her shoulders. This isn't just a pool anymore, she said. It's proof that when a community stands together, no one can push them around. Mark slipped his arm around her shoulders. Ready for a quiet summer? Emily smiled. After all this? I think we've earned it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the pool lights flickered on, casting a warm glow across Willow Creek. For the first time in weeks, the neighborhood felt whole again.